Welcome to Modern Homestead Alaska. I am Jessica. If you've been with me for a while, I would like to just thank you for the kindness and the support that you have showing up time and time again. If you're new around here and you're finding me from that challenge, would you allow me just a second to introduce myself and our homestead? We are a working, modern, small homestead here in South Central Alaska. We're in the younger stages of our homestead build, and those are the things that we share on this channel. What we enjoy sharing with you is the procurement of our food, whether that's fishing and hunting and harvesting. Also, the production of our own food, whether we grow our own meat and our own garden, and then we enjoy sharing the process of preserving that with you, whether that's freeze drying, canning, all of the different things. Lastly, we also share all of our Alaska adventures as well as the building of this homestead, and we hope that you find something you can enjoy on this channel and that you stick around for a long time. Well, let's get into today's video. My project for today is actually, I need to work in the greenhouse. I need to deal with trellising up the tomatoes. As I continue to water them and they grow, they start falling over. I want to take out the very bottom of all of the leaves, allowing really good airflow. And then we want to just kind of shimmy shake them around pretty good, allowing the flowers that have begun to blossom and open up to shed all of their goodness onto the other ones. So instead of waiting on pollinators, we are going to self-pollinate by shaking all of the flowers and the plants around just a little bit. This will not be what we are harvesting today. What we're harvesting is out there. I do need to tackle a couple of things first though, because it's supposed to rain all day tomorrow. So first, let's jump in the greenhouse and start working on the tomatoes. We're just gonna get down here with the tomatoes. What I had to go to a local farm store. We had run out of clips the last time I did it. And I got these tomato clips, which were ridiculous. They were $7 or $8 for 50 clips. Whereas the ones I normally use, I can get off at Amazon, 300 of them for $13. So I did place an order because I doubt that these clips will go very far today. And so what we're going to do is get down in here and see what is going on. And then each tomato is trellised up to the top here. And then we just want to make sure that everything's working its way around its own string and tie all of them up. Well, that took 50 clips just to do this one side. Let me show you the difference. So we've pinned all of it up. We've set on so much fruit. We've shook them around. And then we've just cleaned up all of the bottoms. Even though the tops are putting on all this new growth, we want good airflow. Da, 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 da. Moving along. Okay, so we made it to this last one right here. And now, swinging you over here. Look, they're literally laying on the ground. They need help. Look at how, oh, they're all stretched out. So this is what we started with on the other side. And we have the center and that far side all cleaned up. We're gonna have to use a whole nother pack of clips here, and I think we'll be all right. Welcome to my rhubarb patch. I'm actually very excited that we're going to be harvesting any rhubarb at all, because if you look back at our early garden videos and our woes of the chickens, anytime it would start to grow, they would eat the rhubarb down. I did not think the rhubarb was going to survive. And 2 of the 3 are just huge. They are fantastic. The 3rd one, we're not gonna touch it. We're gonna let it go. What my original intention was, just let it go. And then what needs to happen with rhubarb is the leaves die back over the root ball. And then we put a little straw over there to insulate it. We're a zone 3 here where I'm at in South Central Alaska. And so we insulate the rhubarb. It survives winter and it comes back up in the spring. Second story. At Thanksgiving, I make every member of the family, their significant others, if you are part of our family, neighbors, so on, their own pie. And I mean their whole own pie. And it is requested. What kind of pie do you want? And I make it. My daughter puts that order in very, very early because during COVID of 2020, we couldn't find any rhubarb. And rhubarb is her request. She would prefer a rhubarb pie over anything else. And so, very fortunately, we're going to be able to harvest enough in order to get her pie pre-made, not the whole crust. I'll show you when we get inside. So what we're going to do is we're gonna cut the rhubarb, put it in a pie pan, freeze it, pop it out, and then I have that pie ready to go at Thanksgiving. I just pop it into the crust when I'm ready to bake. Let's get harvesting some rhubarb. So these are my beautiful giant rhubarb, and rhubarb is so easy. You take it and you just kind of wiggle it, and that leaf pops off just like that. So we'll look in here for some good size ones. There's so many. But while I'm here, see these dead ones? I am gonna go ahead and clean up anything that I don't like the look of. They don't look quite as beautiful as they did a couple of minutes ago. I used this on the tomatoes that I got done. I found 1 slug in the greenhouse, which totals 3 slugs now. But we think that's what causes the holes and what's eating them. So I am gonna treat these rhubarb. Slugs are the main thing, but this is for organic gardeners. So let's get a little bit treated in here. Something's taking bites out of them. Over time I've learned, don't take everything into the house that you don't have to. So there's no use. These are poisonous, the leaves. And I don't know how my chickens actually manage to eat them because it's poisonous to chickens. And the first thing that comes out is a leaf, but what do I know? So I am gonna trim the rhubarb before I even take it inside. I have my compost bucket right over here. And something else to know, everything I pulled off the tomatoes also went into compost. It doesn't go to the chickens either because the tomato leaves are also poisonous to chickens. So we're gonna trim up the rhubarb. This is our very small strawberry patch, but we are on our 2nd harvest of strawberries, and I think the rhubarb pie deserves some farm fresh Alaskan strawberries. So I'm gonna come through and harvest. All right, we have our basket of goodies. Let's head in and see what we can do with this. Before we get started on the pie, in every video I'm trying to get something in the freeze dryer. And I have gotten out the Girl Escapes and the green scallions or onions, and we're gonna make salts out of those. I talked about this in the very first video. If you didn't see that, you can go back and see us harvest these things, take a good garden tour, and then see why and how we put all these in the freeze dryer. So they're so dry out, they're so lightweight. We are going to first do the garlic scapes. We're gonna put those in the food processor. And we're going to process them down. What we're looking for is 1.5 cups of salt to 1 cup of whatever onion or garlic scape powder. About 2 cups of pureed garlic scapes. So we need 3 cups of salt. I have this big bag of the Redmond's kosher salt. I get this from Azure. I'll leave a link in the video description if you're interested in that. It's where we get a lot of our bulk items that we can't otherwise get in Alaska. So 3 cups of salt. 1, 2, 3. All right. Whew. Oh, that smells so good. And there we have garlic scape salt. All right, my family is home, so you'll hear them talking, but we're just gonna follow the same process for the scallions.
I've had this for a long time, but you know what it's called? Yeah, $15 a piece.
Onion, salt, same recipe, is beautiful. So, with the last, scoot that out of the way, the last bit, I am just gonna seal these up and then have them for anything that I want to throw some scallions in throughout the year. I'm just gonna shove the freeze-dried ones in a quart jar. And there we have it, sealed. To make the rhubarb pie filling, we are not going to cook the pie all the way through, and we're not going to make the crust. We have our Woman's Home Companion Cookbook. This was written during World War II, and it is my favorite of all of my cookbooks. So we want to start off with 4 cups of rhubarb plant, and then you and I already took the tops, the leaf part off outside. This is fairly thin, young rhubarb, and so we don't need to slice it down the center. But if you had like really, like this one's almost questionable, but it's not. We're not going to take the time for it. If you had really big stalks of rhubarb, cut them down the center. They have a texture similar to celery. However, they can be like really stringy if you don't cut them small. But these are so young and so thin to begin with, we can just run our knife through them. So these books, the pie size is that of like a traditional pie, but we have deep dish pie shells, and so we can increase that. Instead of 4 cups, as the book calls for, we can do 6 cups. To the 6 cups of rhubarb, I am just going to clean up these fresh strawberries. I'm actually going to leave them whole, or if they're fairly big, I might just cut them in half. They're really gonna break down in the pie, and so we don't want to have them the same size starting out as what the rhubarb is. The rhubarb is going to hold its size and its shape. And so unless it's a bigger strawberry like that, we can just stick it in there whole. They're so good. Now, the strawberry, raspberry, blueberry, all of those things go fantastic with rhubarb, and you can just toss them in. However, strawberry rhubarb is the most classic, but we also make a lot of rhubarb pies with no additional fruit. I just so happened to needed to pick these strawberries today, and so sweet treat, add to Cody's pie a little bit of sweetness. All right, to our rhubarb and beautiful strawberries, we are gonna do a pinch of salt, about a teaspoon of cinnamon, a couple of tablespoons. I went a little heavy because what happens, instead of just 2 tablespoons of flour, I've done 2.5, almost 3. My reason is once you freeze the pie, it lets out additional moisture, not just from the cooking of the pie. And we want the flour to be able to absorb all of it and make it not a runny pie. 1.5 to 1 3/4 of a cup of sugar. And then I realized my bowl's too small. And when I pull the pie out of the freezer to cook it, I'm going to put a little bit of lemon juice on it, and I'm going to dot it with some butter, but I don't need to do that in order to freeze it. And second of all, I don't have any lemon juice. Otherwise, I totally could. Now, if this were apples, they absorb it a lot quicker. However, I promise you, all of the sugar and flour will end up absorbed. All right, to assemble the pie, I only have these pie pans plus 1 more, and so I know when it's time to cook the pie that this pie pan's gonna work. I've crinkled up a piece of parchment paper so that it'll fit really, really well in the pie. So that will make a perfect little bit of a rounded top on the pie when it is fully cooked. So what we do, pull the paper in around it. I'm gonna wrap this in plastic wrap, leaving it in the pie shell. Because when I get this out of the freezer, I am gonna leave it in the parchment, and then I'm going to seal it in a food saver bag. You could just wrap it like this, pop it in the freezer when you had something fresh, and then pull it out, pie pan and all. But this is exactly what's gonna go in the freezer, and then we're gonna pop out that filling, seal it up, and when it's time, we're gonna do a top and bottom crust, and then just it goes in like a perfect little disc into the pie crust. Pop it in the oven and bake it just like you normally would. So let's talk about eggs. Today was kind of a crazy day. At 5 o'clock this morning, it started raining, and it literally just beat on the house all day long, and it's finally started to clear up. But it is way too wet for me to deal with anything outside today. And so I spent my time cleaning out the freezer in here. One thing led to another, and the day has rolled on, and it is now in the evening, and it is mine and my husband's date night. So I need to just preserve something super quickly, and something I have abundance of is eggs. And so what we're going to be doing is freeze drying eggs, and they end up getting stored like this. This 1 pouch is 18 eggs, and then a freeze-dried egg is reconstituted 1 tablespoon of the freeze-dried egg to 1 tablespoon of water equals 1 egg. And this is a wonderful thing to have in your pantry, especially in the wintertime when the chickens really stop or slow way down on laying, and I can use this for breakfast. This is wonderful to take hunting and fishing. And then not only that, any recipe that calls for an egg that would be beat or whipped in any sort of way, we can substitute with this freeze-dried egg instead of using up a fresh egg. So I have been working diligently on saving my eggs this way. The other way we save eggs is water glassing them. You can see the water is completely clear. These have been in here for a couple months now, and there's nothing going on. These eggs will last a year to 18 months. And then lastly, I'm going to be collecting the eggshells today, and we are going to be making some calcium for the garden. Now, I'll have to wash and dry the eggshells, so we won't quite make this today, but my goal is to fill this jar with eggshells. We're gonna cover it over with some raw apple cider vinegar and let that steep for about a week. And then we will use that as something to help with the blossom end rot and the different things we have going on in the garden. I don't know if you know, your plants cannot absorb the other nutrients if they simply are lacking calcium, and this is an amazing organic way for us to get calcium in the garden. And no exaggeration, while I was doing other things today, our son showed up and stole some eggs. We have all of these. These have been washed, float tested, and put in the refrigerator. And so I'm gonna start with these. My freeze dryer is a large size freeze dryer. It holds 5 trays, and in each one of these trays holds 18 eggs. Something I have been told and kind of stuck with on the freeze drying of eggs. I'm gonna get started while we're talking. One of the things I have been helped to understand is when it comes to freeze drying, you want to pre-freeze the eggs. And the reason that we want to pre-freeze them is the freeze dryer cools so deeply and so quickly that it causes the egg to expand. If it's pre-frozen, you don't have that same issue in the freeze dryer, and then you just get a nicer product that's not spilling all over the freeze dryer. So we did the work. Some trays hold 18, some hold 12. It depends on your size freeze dryer. All right, here's something I've learned. In the freezer, I have put the first tray, and then we're going to just pour the eggs without moving it around, and then this makes it to where I can move it to the freeze dryer nice and easy. I have lids for my freeze dryer trays. They do load it in the freezer perfectly. All right, next tray.
Where's Wyatt?
He's upstairs. What happened?
Jessica.
Well, everyone get in. Everyone get an egg. Awesome. Well, on my last batch, I scooted it too far to the edge. We got for 4 dogs, right? The puppies are now wrestling. Okay, I need a bigger bowl, and all I'm gonna do is I'm going to soak these eggshells overnight and then rinse them in the morning, get them crunched up in the jar. Luckily we have 4 inside dogs, jeez. All right, I got all cleaned up. We have 5 complete trays, as well as, I'm sure there's eggs in the coop. We still have some eggs here. we have plenty of eggs for the rest of the week to go around, and the chickens lay new ones every day. So it's no harm, no foul. And then the dogs apparently got an early dinner or dinner snack that was totally unintentional. Real things around here. So I'm gonna soak these and I'll meet you back here tomorrow. All right, we have let the eggshells rinse, and then I've had them in the strainer. We are going to add them to this jar, and then anything that doesn't fit in here, we are just gonna dry out, and then I feed them back to the chickens. Oh, this like old, I think it's a potato masher, but muddle. Because the more surface area, so as far as the vinegar goes, it's in a 5-gallon bucket. I get this from Azure. Move it over. And this is a brand new one. We have already in the past used a whole 5-gallon bucket of apple cider vinegar. This is a raw, organic, with the mother, and it is very, very strong in flavor in comparison to others. And then the 5-gallon comes with this pour spout, and then you're not really gonna be able, Aaron just brought this one up this morning. So I'm gonna try and pour it. We're gonna use this because it's so heavy for me. This is what I have to do. Okay, have to tilt it. If you're interested in Azure, I'll leave a link. If you use my code, I do get a kickback, but everyone that is part of Azure gets a similar code. And then when you share it with your friends and family, you get $25 if they order, I think it's $100 or $150 worth, something like that. But it really is great. A great way for us to get good organic bulk items like this in Alaska that wouldn't otherwise be possible. 2 eggshells, perfect. Add the lid and a ring, and we are gonna let this ferment for about a week. All right, look at that. So great use for all those additional eggshells. And I also thought this was something unique that maybe others aren't doing. And then we're gonna dilute it before we add it to the garden. But I already have all of this apple cider vinegar, and then I have the eggshells, and this beats the heck out of spending $30 for calcium for the garden.
What's up, YouTube? Me and my buddy over here, he wanted to be featured, so.
There is some sort of chemical reaction happening with the vinegar and the egg that I was not prepared for. I'm hoping it slowed down in a second. Maybe it's because I shook it. I have no idea, but it is starting to, but exploded all over my countertop and down here, and so I'm just rinsing. And I'm just gonna leave it on my drain board sink here and let it drain in down the drain, I guess. Okay, we'll touch base on this. Look at the bubbles. So I got this recipe from Good Earth Garden School, and she is the instructor of the college course that I took on organic gardening up here in Alaska. Okay, homemade liquid calcium, that's what we're doing here. Add in a glass or plastic container, 5 cups vinegar, 1 cup crushed eggshells. Label this, watch the fun, steep for 5 days, and strain it. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna date it when we can get to it. This is a concentrate, so you store it in the glass jar or plastic jar and plastic lid and in the fridge. So once we've steeped it, it'll be stored in the fridge, and then we're gonna dilute it. We're gonna add 1 part extract to 7 parts non-chlorinated water, or 5 cups of extract to 2 gallons of water. Apply it to vegetables, fruits, flowers, herbs. When and how to apply. Apply alone, dilute, and do combo drench and foliage applications every 2 to 3 weeks. Use as an undiluted ingredient in your fish and kelp application every 10 to 14 days. And use as undiluted ingredients in your boron calcium recipe only once per season, only as a spray application in mid-July. A recipe for that is coming soon. Use spent eggshells as grit for chickens or mixed into compost pile or garden soil. So we're still gonna use the eggshells. So when she said watch the fun, I think she meant it. I had no idea it was going to blow up like that. So there we are. The bubbling is starting to reduce and come down. This has become a fun science project. This one, it isn't going to be quite as interesting as that. Let's move on to the next project. So while I have this giant bucket of vinegar out, I wanted, on a previous kind of Azure video, I showed making my own hair care and deodorant, it's slipping on me, and some different things like that. And then I needed a hair rinse. Well, my friend Crystal had told me about a company in Homer makes an apple cider vinegar hair rinse in lieu of something like a conditioner, and you really do need it to strip out like the oils and stuff that are in the homemade shampoo. And in that hair rinse is a bunch of herbs and some other things, but it is insanely expensive. And I have raw apple cider vinegar. Once our apple cider vinegar and herb mix is finished steeping, very similar to making a tincture or an extract, we will store it, and then we will dilute it in water and then use it as a hair rinse, and we'll add some essential oils to it then. However, guess what I have? I keep an herb garden on my porch, and what I have here is a quart size mason jar. I have some fresh sage that I just pulled off, and we're just gonna rip it a little to expose some of the oils and get that going in there, stems and all. And what we're trying to do is extract everything from the sage, and then what we have are a bunch of sprigs of rosemary. Okay. And all that's fresh off of the porch. This is not creating a scientific blow up experiment. Give it a good shake, and we're gonna come along every day and shake this as well. And then I'll keep you updated once this is done, and we will make the hair rinse together. So let's head out to the garden. Yesterday, we got a pretty horrific rainstorm and lots of wind. We don't normally get that here, and it literally laid the carrots over during this part. Not too terribly much damage, but the potatoes took quite a bit of a hit here. It was probably just too much rain at one time, if you will. And then, yeah, so now the whole center of the potatoes is laid out, but they're starting to perk back up, so we should be all right. Anyway, all is well. I'm gonna breeze around. These are just the two first things I noticed walking into the garden this morning. We're doing beets today. When I walked by last night after checking all the animals before bed, I noticed 3 have shot up flowers. So it's time. The beets have to go. I have a fantastic plan for them that is a little bit different than anything I've done before. But I want to walk through and make sure there's no other damage that I could maybe address, or just see what's going on in my garden. All right, nothing that I can do anything about or that needs my help. And so we are going to start harvesting the beets. So look at that. Look at all those fine hairs, and the soil is sticking to them. That's super, super healthy soil. What I want to do is leave all the roots here in the garden to continue to feed microbes and anything else. I'll save a few of the beet greens, but for the most part they'll go to the chickens and some to the bunnies. And there's our first beet. Coming up this early fall, Aaron and I have a ton of work we're going to be doing to our chicken coop. So make sure you're part of the channel to see that. He is fixing the roof. And what we try and do is tackle little projects that should have been done quite some time ago. It's okay, it's getting done now. It still needs some paint. We gotta do some repairs inside. All of the different things that'll be coming up on the channel. In order to move on to the beets, I need these freeze dryer trays. What we have here is the zucchini from previous videos. And then we have the eggs going in the freeze dryer. So what we're gonna do, I just wanted to walk you through this really quick, is we have some Harvest Right freeze dryer bags that we are going to fill with the product and then seal these up with the sealer that came with the freeze dryer. So first let me label them. It's a weird texture. So let's get them in here. My mom also freeze-dried zucchini, and she said they are a strange texture. She didn't necessarily care for the texture, but that's all fine. I store open oxygen absorbers in mason jars. It seals down the lid. To each one of these is going to go an oxygen absorber, and I am gonna go ahead and toss one in here too, in order to keep that nice and dry. And then this came with our freeze dryer. I have it already set. So go ahead and seal that up. It just goes in here. Can we hold it down? There's a light down here, but I can hear it. And I double it just to make sure it's really sealed. And there we have it. 3 more to go. Okay. There we are. 4 for long-term storage in the basement, and then 1 for the shelf. We're just gonna, sorry I have no head, but I wanted to show you. I'm just gonna use a scrub brush. Get any dirt I can off the beets. All right, I have the beautiful beets scrubbed up. I got soaked, and then Aaron and I had to run and help a neighbor really quick. But we're back now. I'm actually going to roast these beets, and this is not how I did it the last time. The last time we still had plenty of jars, but I wanted to show you we pickled the beets, and then these were the candy stripe ones. They lose their color when they are canned, but these are just plain canned beets as well. And because I have plenty of enough jars left over, I want to process these different. What we're gonna do is we're gonna roast them and then peel them and freeze dry them. What I'm hoping to happen is to get a couple of things. Number one, we just want to make like kind of some chips for snacking of the beets. Number two, I want to powder some of the beets and be able to use those in everything from like brownies, something you want to add the color to. You can add it to smoothies for the health benefits, all of the different things. But to freeze dry them, we do need to actually roast them first. To do that, we're simply going to clean up the beet. So I'm going to take the tops off. This is a candy stripe. So even though it's beautiful in color on the outside, the inside of it is actually white. And I'll take the root end off and any extra roots or bad spots that we don't want. So see the color throughout. Okay, and then I have a baking sheet because of the amount of color. I have bulk oil, and now I'm going to do some parchment. They smell amazing. Let's see. These are a different beet. This one is the deep purple all the way through. All right, I got all of the beets just kind of trimmed up, and I am out of oil, but we're gonna refill the avocado oil. We want a really mild or no flavor oil, and avocado oil is perfect for that. I also get this oil from Azure. I have a Band-Aid on this hand, so I put on a glove because I don't want the glove or my Band-Aid covered in beet. All right, so let's divide these into 2 trays. I'm gonna try and put all the super big ones because these may take a little bit longer. Look at that. It is orange on the outside, like a bright, vibrant orange, and yellow inside. So beautiful. I hope to get a few more of those next year. The candy stripes. Look at the inside of that one. Just fantastic. But a little oil to go in and roast them. And then this is going to help us skin them when they are done roasting, and we're gonna start with 90 minutes. Now, just a little kosher salt. It's gonna help draw out some of the moisture, but also add flavor to the beef. All right, into a 400-degree oven. We're gonna start at 90 minutes until a knife or a fork pierced in it comes out easy. All right, so perfect. All right, the little guys I pulled out of the oven about 20 minutes ago because I'm gonna be handling them and I didn't want to burn myself. So while we process these beets, those will cool down. We got our beautiful bowl of beets. Look at the colors. They are just, that is so beautiful. So I'm going to now start filling our freeze dryer trays. I might slice it, I might dice it, and whatever I'm feeling, and then we'll get them going in the freezer. I finish filling these freeze dryer trays, I am gonna invite you to join the channel. You can do that by hitting the subscribe button and ringing the bell, and then you won't miss anything that happens on the homestead. And I hope you enjoyed today's video. All that's gonna happen from here is these trays are gonna go into our freezer, and then when the deep freeze is, or the freeze dryer is done with the eggs that we did, then we're going to pop these trays in there in place of those. And then in an upcoming video, I'll show you how these turned out. They are so beautiful, and I'm actually very excited to see how they end up. All of the colors are preserved when freeze drying, as opposed to, like I showed you, those canned beets. They lose their color when you can them the traditional way, and that's okay. The flavor, the nutrients, all of that is still there, but with freeze drying, we're preserving even more of it. I always preach on the channel, eating the rainbow. The more color that you can get in your diet, the better. And beets have that just absolutely beautiful, rich purple. And whatever vitamins and nutrients make up purple fruits and vegetables as opposed to other colors, it's not widely found. So, you know, you get it in the blackberries, you get it in some other things, but beets are absolutely fantastic for the diet. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I know it was a long one. What my goal is to make 5 videos a week, and editing is the most difficult part. And so over the weekend, instead of having to edit every single day of the week, it just makes it to where I can record and then just edit one video. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you are blessed. I hope you find something to be grateful for. And I hope you choose to join us in the future. With that, I'll see you in the next video. Look at all those colors. Look at that one. The white, the yellow, the different pinks, the purple.